Hi, I'm George Thompson Jr. Our opening title asks a question. Can we remind God of His Word? I say the answer to this question is an absolute yes. We can remind God of His Word, not because He forgets, but instead when we remind God of His promises, we are really showing our faith in what He has already said. In fact, Scripture shows that we can absolutely do this and be on solid ground when we remind Him of His promises. First, God invites us to do so. In Isaiah chapter 43 verse 26 it says, "Put me in remembrance, let us plead together, declare that thou mayest be justified." God is not stating this because He forgets. God is inviting us to stand on His word and speak it back to Him. It's an act of covenant faith. Also, reminding God of His word builds our faith and agreement with Him. Hebrews chapter 13 verse 5 says, "Lord, you said you'd never leave me or forsake me." Philippians chapter 4 verse 19 says, "Lord, you said you'd supply all of my needs." And then Isaiah chapter 54 verse 17 says, "Lord, you said no weapon formed against me shall prosper." When we declare, "Lord, you said," we are aligning our hearts with His truth instead of our circumstances. This is not arrogance. Instead, it is a faith-filled agreement with what is written in His word. Also, we can remind God of His word because God honors His word. Isaiah chapter 55:11 says, "So shall my word that goes out from my mouth, it shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please." And then Jeremiah 1 verse 12 says, "God watches over His word to perform it." When we speak His word back to Him, it is like sending it back to its source. So yes, absolutely yes, you can and should remind God of His word. But the real power is when you do so, it reminds you of who He is, what He has promised, and why. Because you can trust God even when things are dark and uncertain.
Living in this world bring much pain.